Let's go over how to build the next Travis Hunter in Dynasty College Football 25. If y'all enjoy the content, make sure y'all like, comment, subscribe. Check out the Temple series. We're going crazy. Shout out to Darius for this comment on the screen right now, man. This is proof. If you drop a comment down below of a video idea you want to see, I just might do it, and I might do it tomorrow. All right, y'all, let's talk about two-way players in this game. I don't think it's great. I don't think it's phenomenal. There's definitely flaws with having two-way players in this game. You know, Travis Hunter is the anomaly, especially when you consider he's the first to ever do it, and, you know, probably no one else will ever do it again. At least, you know, not until a while. So, with that being said, EA did not do a phenomenal job of adding, you know, the two-way ability in this game. It is possible. There are some things in this game that allows it to happen, but the system is flawed for sure. But so we're going to do the best we possibly can to have a two-way player in this game. So the first step to this is finding the perfect athlete. And it's tough. It's tough. I probably just sent through literally 10 years trying to find the perfect athlete. It's tough. I was looking for a wide receiver that's going to be a 5-star, and I literally can't find one, man. I found every other position, but no 5-star athlete wide receivers that could play corner and then also wide receiver. Just not finding them here, man. I'm barely finding the 3-star version. We look at wide receiver position, go to 4-star. I'm barely finding the 4-star version. You search by athletes. It's literally only 2 of them in this whole class, man. Only 2 4-star wide receiver athletes. And like I said, my goal was to find a 5-star one, but just can't find it. You look at the 3 stars, it's plenty of them, but we don't need that. We need a 4 or 5-star one. So we was at least able to find a couple. And what we're going to do here is we're going to also look at the offensive line athletes. I honestly believe you are better off doing an offensive and defensive lineman for your two-way player that could, you know, actually be viable on both ends. And I'll pretty much show y'all guys why. But I also want to mention positions you don't want as athletes playing both ways. Quarterback, they're not going to be able to play defense and then also be able to play wide receiver. If they play quarterback, they cannot play on the defensive side of the ball. If they play defense, they can also not play quarterback. So that's one thing to keep in mind. Another thing is going to be running backs. The power backs, they may be good on the D line, but they can't play O line. You can't have a two-way player play running back and then also on defense. It's just a game mechanic, man. It's not saying that y'all can't do it. It's literally not allowed in the game. So running backs is kind of out for this. Quarterbacks are out as well. Tight ends are pretty much out as well because they can't play tight end and also play in the D-line or even play linebacker. And then the linebacker athletes, like the run-stopping linebacker athletes, they can only play defense. None of these guys have any offense ability, but they can play anywhere on defense essentially. So that pretty much limits us to 2. That's going to be the wide receiver, these physical wide receivers that can also play cornerback and wide receiver, and then also the centers that's going to come in as an agile center that they can also play elsewhere on the O-line, and then they can play anywhere on the D-line as well. And like I said, I think this is going to be our best bet right here, and let me show you guys why. All right, so we hit National Signing Day, and we have the athletes pretty much on campus. Unfortunately, only one of them has star development, and this is the quarterback who we're probably not going to do much with. Everyone else only has impact development, but not a big deal. What really matters is going to be their cap breakers, and we're mainly looking at the wide receiver David right here, and then also the old lineman Tyler. These are going to be the 2 main guys we're going to focus on when it comes to like having these two-way players. So Tyler, the old lineman, he's coming in as a 71 overall at center, but we're not going to play him at center. We're going to start him at the defensive side of the ball. He's only a 75 overall on defense, and he's a 73 overall on offense, which is, you know, or 74 overall at offense at guard, which is solid. If we're able to find this guy at the 5-star level, which is a little bit difficult, but if we're able to find, you know, one of these athlete centers or wide receivers at the 5-star level, they'll come in with some more ideal ratings. But more so in like this high 70s, but we could at least rock out with this. This is going to be doable. We're going to move him to D-tackle speed rusher. Then we're also going to start him at left or right guard. Also, let's focus on True Blood right here, who is going to be a scrambling quarterback who is not going to play quarterback. You press X on him. He's a 74 overall. They say quarterback. Press X on him, and now he could play. running back, but we can't do the two-way with the running back. We already talked about that. Cornerback, we can do two-way at cornerback and wide receiver. And he actually has a way better overall than the other wide receiver, the physical guy. So we're going to move him to slot corner. We're going to start him. And then we're also going to start him at wide receiver as well. All right, so let's come over here and look at the rating cap. So we're going to start off with True Blood, man. This is the quarterback. We moved over to cornerback, who's going to play wide receiver as well. This is going to be the closest to, I'll say, Travis Hunter we're going to get. He's a former 5-star, and he's coming in with some solid stats. Unfortunately, he's only going to develop on one side of the ball. I kind of have a plan. It's a couple things, couple ideas I have to make it work, but he's only going to develop on one side of the ball. Even if we start him both ways, the game is only going to have him progress on one side. So we're going to start him off at cornerback. I feel like cornerback is a more important position for like stats. Like you can't play cornerback with horrible ratings. If your zone coverage and your man coverage is bad, you're going to get cooked. Compared to receiver, if you fast in this game, you could ball out. Honestly, if you fast in this game, that kind of all that matters for you to ball out in this game. So we're going to start him, like I said, both ways. Rating caps are pretty solid. He could become a very good player. All right, then we have Tyler, who is going to be the D tackle that we're also going to start at guard. We're going to play him both ways. 4-star impact development. Looking at his caps, they're solid. They're solid. The only thing that's really maxed out is power, and he's already pretty strong. So I'm not too worried about that. I think with this guy, what we're going to try to do is we're going to simulate 2 years. And then after his first 2 years of starting, we're going to move him to the offensive side of the ball. We're going to move him to guard, continue to start him both ways, and see if he progresses on both sides of the ball. And let's see what happens with that. Before I put those guys in the starting lineup, I want to make sure I come in here to tactician. And we're going to max this puppy out, man. This is really going to help our DBs, wide receivers, O-line, and D-line play better both ways, man. It's going to give them the extra boost to the most important categories also. Block shedding, power moves, run blocking, pass blocking, zone coverage, man, route running. It's going to boost all those most important things, so we're going to make sure we max that out. Then I'm going to also make sure I come in here to this motivator, and then we're going to max it. We're going to get tier 3 for the O-line, then D-line as well, just so that those players are getting as much as they possibly can. And then also for defensive backs and wide receiver, we're going to get that tier 3 to get that all-season training boost for, our wide receiver / defensive back, Travis Hunter 2.0, whatever you want to call him. Then I'm also going to buy talent developer. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to do the same thing. But this time it costs a little bit more, so we're going to be a little bit more strict with it. We're going to go with the D-line. We're going to max it out, all starting D-lineman. He is starting on the D-line, so we want to get that boost. But that tier 2, it was really, or not the tier 2, tier 3 is what's going to be most important, where lower rated defensive linemen will progress faster. That's going to be very important. And then we're going to do the same thing for our defensive back. We're going to get that tier 4 for him as well. And hopefully that just helps his progression. I'm also going to come in here to architect. And listen, we're trying to make sure these players develop. So we're going to go with the D-line again. And we're going to get tier 3 for every 3-game winning streak. We need that. And then for our defensive back, same exact thing, man. The tier 2 is what's most important, where we get that random skill cap level up when it comes to, just when they level up, you have the chance to get an extra random skill cap. So we need all of that, man. All right, so we're going to make sure we're starting our freshman. So True Blood, he's going to be our #1 receiver, and we also going to play him in the slot. I believe the slot receiver usually get the most catches, so we're going to put him in a position to succeed. And then also Tyler, we're going to start him at right guard. This is going to be the defensive tackle. He's also going to be the starting defensive tackle as well. And then go back over here to cornerback. True Blood is going to be our starting cornerback as well. So they're going to be on the field their whole entire career. One unfortunate thing to keep in mind, you cannot start a cornerback in the slot. I don't know why, but we cannot start True Blood in the slot. So he's just going to be our #1 receiver. But we can't put him in the slot. It's just not an option here. Let's go ahead and advance to the end of the season and kind of see how they progress, see how they overall goes up, and also just check out their stats. All right, man, so we made it to the end of the season. You want to come over here to wide receiver to check out our cornerback stats? Well, guess what? You can't see it. I don't know why. But in this game, you cannot see if you have a two-way player, if he's starting on defense or if his position is at cornerback, you cannot see his offensive stats. So that's one issue. You can only see his defensive stats. I don't know how the game allows this to happen. So this may, if you want to, actually see his wide receiver stats, you're going to have to start him at wide receiver. Then you won't be able to see his defensive stats. But if we come over here to the defensive side of the ball, we should be able to see both our guys' stats. True Blood, the cornerback, ends the season with no interceptions. I find that hard to believe, man. No interceptions. We got a wide receiver playing cornerback, but he does have 40 tackles, which is about six total in the team, which is pretty good. Now let's look at our D lineman. Where is he at? Tyler. He has 14 tackles, and he ended the season with no sacks. Not a hot start. Not a hot start at all. Let's sim to the next season and see how they overall goes up in off-season training. So looking at our guy True Blood, he is up to a 88 overall after off-season training. We'll see what his overall is at wide receiver. But on the defensive side of the ball, he shot up to an 88 overall, 89 after the boost. Let's look at our defensive tackle Tyler. He only goes up to a 78, 82 after the boost. That's not great. That is not great at all. On the offensive side of the ball, True Blood is still going to be an 81 overall after the boost. And then same thing for our right guard. He's still a 75 overall. Did not progress much at all. After this season, we're going to at least try where we move Tyler over to the offensive end. We're going to move him to right guard to see if he progresses a little bit differently. And maybe we'll do the same with our cornerback. But I will say, like, True Blood is good enough to play, like, obviously to be a starting cornerback. And on our team, we are Georgia, and he's good enough to be a starting wide receiver. Like, 81 overall is definitely good enough to be a starting receiver. And actually looking at his stats, like, his route running is not terrible. Catching is solid. Like, he is good enough to play on the offensive end of the ball. He's obviously not as dominant as a Travis Hunter would be, just because he's not developing as much at cornerback or at wide receiver. But yeah, let's actually, the more I think about it, let's actually move his position to wide receiver after this year and just see if he could develop a little bit better at wide receiver. And then if he could get to like 88 overall on both sides of the ball, that is elite. That is a great two-way player. One thing that's probably also worth mentioning, I did turn injury and wear and tear off just for this, so these guys don't get tired or, don't get injured. We're trying to just see what happens with these two-way players. All right, let's look at year 2 stats. True Blood, still no interceptions, 45 tackles, which is 4th on the team. But we need some turnovers from you, my guy. And where's Tyler, man? Come down here to Tyler. And finally, he got himself 5 sacks. We'll take that, but not great production. He's still only a 79 overall. All right, man, so we're at the off season. Let's move True Blood over to the wide receiver position, which he will be 80 overall. Let's see what happens when we do that, see if he progresses a little bit better. And then let's try to do the same thing with our D tackle, Tyler, who I feel like is not progressing all that well. Let's try to move him over to... Damn, we move him to guard. He's going to drop all the way down to a 75 overall. Let's try it. Let's try to move him to right guard and see what happens. Training results came in, and True Blood goes up 1 overall. He's an 81, which is not great. But now he could actually, play the offensive. We can actually see his offensive stats, which I feel like is a little bit more valuable because just seeing his, he wasn't getting much stats at cornerback. So being able to see how good of a receiver he actually is could be impactful. Let's look at our guard, Tyler. He does go up. He was a 75. He goes up all the way to an 81. So he's at least usable. Is he our best guard? Not at all. Not even close. Not even close at all. But we're still going to start him at both sides of the ball. I can't lie. This look kind of cool, man. 89 overall wide receiver playing cornerback. Literally one of our best cornerbacks on the team. That looks cool. I can't lie. And now we can actually start him in the slot. So his receiving stats might be even better than we expect. We'll see at the end of the year. Look at True Blood, man, going over 1,000 yards, 12 touchdowns, man. We don't know what he did on the defensive side of the ball, but put him in a Heisman candidate, man. He should be a Heisman out there. He's an 83 overall receiver now. Let's look at our offensive lineman, see how many, if any, sacks he gave up. Oh man, I thought that 16 number was gonna be him. That would have been crazy. But let's see, where is Tyler at, man? Did he not start? He did. He didn't give up a single sack, man. Look at him. He's a wall out there. Started all 12 games. Over 1,200 yards, not one sack given up, man. Low-key our best offensive lineman out there. And you see how many downs he got played. Obviously, he played a lot of downs on the defense side of the ball. If you compare it to, our other linemen, he played around 400 more downs, and that's all going to be on defense. And if you look at the downs played by Trueblood, 1,400. That's ridiculous, man. That's literally Travis Hunter type numbers, 1,400 yards. Some of our other receivers, 500, 700, tight end at 800. That's crazy. All right, man, we hit training results. Our 2 guys are going to be seniors now. Let's look at Trueblood first. He's up to an 83 overall, 84 after the boost. It seems like they went heavily into his abilities. Now he has some crazy abilities, shifty, takeoff, layout, some pretty solid abilities. Is his rating capped out? Not at all. He can get better at route running. He can also get better, with catching. He get a lot better, man. Elusiveness is maxed out, quickness maxed out as well, but he's a good player. He's a good player. I would have hoped he would have got a little bit better, but his abilities did get better. He's not, at this point, he wouldn't get drafted unless we moved him back to defense, because on defense he's around 90 overall, 89. So he wouldn't get drafted at wide receiver, which is, not Travis Hunter like, because this guy, Travis Hunter would get drafted at either position. But look at our offensive lineman, Tyler. I don't know what happened. I don't know what got into him. Remember, year 3, when we moved him over to offensive line, he started off as a 75 overall at the offensive line. He wasn't really developing on defense, so we moved him to the other side of the ball. Now he's up to an 88 overall, 91 after the boost. So I don't know what got into Tyler, but since we moved him to defense, he got a lot better, and he's still pretty solid since we moved him to offense, he got a lot better, and he's still solid on the defensive side of the ball, man. He is a very good pass rusher. He has good finesse moves, and once, I'll advance and we're actually able to see him, his defensive attributes as well. So Trueblood, 84 overall after the boost at receiver. Obviously, we just went over that. And Tyler, 91 overall at right guard. Now at D tackle, he's only at an 81 overall, but he's still good enough to at least play, especially when we only have 2 defensive tackles on the whole roster. Everyone else is defensive ends. He's still good enough to play. But when you actually look at his attributes, they're solid. Like finesse moves, power moves, he's good at rushing the passer. Block shedding is not ideal, but he is very solid at rushing the passer. He got some good stats, and he's also strong. So that's good to see. Now coming over here to our cornerback. Trueblood is legit our best cornerback, second best cornerback on the entire team, man. 89 overall at the cornerback position, elite, or I shouldn't say elite, but elite as far as like acceleration, agility, change of direction, speed is only 92, but it's still good. Look at the coverage rate, man. You got 99 man coverage, 84 on the zone. Press is not very good. Catching, I don't know how the catching is only 51. Someone will have to explain that to me. How is the catching only 51? When you look at him at wide receiver, his catching is elite. Like his catching is in the 80s. I don't know how his catching decreased that much, but it is what it is. Jumping out the gym. He's jumping out the gym. He is still a very good cornerback. It's just the catching rating that's a little bit messed up. Just not sure why. All right, man. That's kind of how we did the Travis Hunter build. It's doable. Is it ideal? No. If you find a 5-star, remember we did this with 4-stars. If you find a 5-star athlete at either center or wide receiver, and you move them to both sides of the ball, or even did what we did with the quarterback, and moving him to cornerback and playing them on both sides, you could do any of those options. It's doable. Is it ideal? Not at all. But it is a possibility to do. It's something I will look to do in one of my dynasties, just because it's a fun idea, man. Having the guy play both sides of the ball, it's just fun, to think about. But other than that, if y'all enjoyed the video, make sure y'all like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what y'all want to see down below, and click the video on the screen now for my temple rebuild.